Not so much so that you can't get everything that we're saying. And then anything that you need repeated, anything that you have questions about, please make notes about those things. And we want the bulk of our time together to be spent in conversation. There were questions that were sent in at the beginning or during your registration that we'll try to get to as we're talking. But if we don't, then please feel free to ask them. If there are questions that come up in the chat, please feel free to make sure utilize that if you're not in a space where you can speak. But also, like Claudia said, this is a place to feel uninhibited and non-judged. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and put up our slideshow because it's easier for me to process with slides. So if you are here tonight, you registered because you want to learn about pronouns and why they matter and how we can use our allyship and co-conspiratorship to be better people and to advocate for our trans community. And so Shani is going to go ahead and remind us why we're here and sort of the expectations that we have this evening.
Thank you, Jesy. So, we created More Light Monday as a way to care for our community, to lean into the curiosity, and to build connection. And so, we will not be here. If you are here, you have already um, you already believe that everybody's humanity matters, and we're not going to debate that, but we are here to learn and how we can show up for people and one another. And this is not about perfection, and I want to repeat that. And later on, I am going to tell you a story about imperfection. Um, but it's about how we practice love and respect in community, and when we mess up, how we get back up when we mess up and when we fall and when we do those things. And so that's why we're here. We are here because we believe in the radical hospitality of all people. Next slide.
So the bulk of what we want to talk about is pronouns, and it's really not a complicated concept at its core. Pronouns are things that we use all the time, and that we are taught at an early age in elementary school or primary school, depending on where you go to school. And so pronouns as a whole, as a concept, are how we refer to somebody when they aren't present. So they are not here. She is over there. He is at work. That kind of situation. And everyone in existence, everyone in existence has pronouns. So if you hear someone say, I don't believe in pronouns, that's not an accurate statement because we all use pronouns, we all have pronouns. It would be very, very difficult to communicate with one another in writing in any kind of format without using pronouns. And so that is one thing to keep in mind. Everyone has them, everyone uses them, and they are a basic form of identification. And they are also a way that we show that we are respecting someone someone's identity and we respect their humanity. By using the correct pronouns, we show that we are recognizing who that person is. We show that we are recognizing that they deserve respect, dignity, that we are recognizing who their belovedness and the image that they were created in Christ. It's not just a matter of checking a box. It's not just a matter of trying to get it right. It's a matter of being able to look at somebody and say, I see you for who you are, and I honor that. That truly is what we are trying to emphasize when we say pronouns matter, and that using the correct pronouns matters. It's about seeing somebody's humanity, respecting their dignity and their humanity, and recognizing who they were created to be in the image of Christ.
allyship isn't wokeness, it's a spiritual practice. And why we say that is because we can get caught up into like correctiveness, and we can get caught up in this idea that piggybacking on what Jesy said about checking a box, but you want to see people the way that they show up and the way that they have identified themselves to be, and you want to honor that. I have 5 letters in my name, and I used to always hate when people could not pronounce it correctly. And I remember this one time somebody said, "Oh, I'm gonna just call you Sean." What? That's not my name. Right? And and when the person said that, and I was like a teenager, I didn't really know, I didn't really have language back then to kind of advocate for myself and be like, no, my name is Shani. Right? It's because it is a sign of just like like I said, radical welcome to just lean into what someone has introduced themselves as and honor that. And yes, there are going to be times where we can be, you know, we can we can get it wrong, and then we when we misstep, you can self-correct, or when you have been told the correct pronoun should be, that you don't take it personally. Like you just don't. Like it's just something that you get used to it. And I want to also emphasize that, because I hear this a lot in people's defensiveness, it's just not grammatically correct. Well, I like to remind people that language in and of itself is a social construct that changes almost every 50 years. Right? 50 years ago, ain't wasn't in the dictionary because it wasn't considered a word. It's now in the dictionary, right? And so as we evolve as a society, we also have to make sure that we are evolving and transforming by the renewing of our mind, because that is a spiritual practice as well.
And part of our allyship, at our core, our allyship is what our call from Christ is to do and to be, which is to love God and to love our neighbor. At the end of the day, that truly is what allyship. So is loving our neighbor and loving our neighbor well. And so to say that allyship by itself is just, you know, a woke thing, well, I guess so is being a Christian. So is being a lover and follower of Jesus. Because actively choosing to love our neighbor well every single day is a spiritual practice. And that and allyship they go hand in hand. And so we believe that it is part of our call as Christians, as followers of Christ, to be allies. And so, what does that truly look like? There are 3 things that we kind of want to hit on. Obviously, this is not a full checklist of what allyship is, for pronouns, for trans community, for the queer community. This is what we're going to give you this evening. So, there are 3 things to take away. Pull out your AAA card when you need it. So we want you to affirm, we want you to advocate, and we want you to amplify. Please note that all 3 of these words are verbs. They are things that you actively have to do on a regular basis, to be an ally, to participate in that spiritual practice. A spiritual practice is not something that is, it is something you are doing. You have to practice it. You have to constantly be working at it. So the first thing is to affirm. You want to actively try and work to use the person that you are with or anyone's correct name and their correct pronouns. That is something that you have to work into doing on a regular basis. So for Shani and I, we have a podcast. At the beginning of our podcast, we introduce ourselves and we say, "My name is Shani McIlwain. My pronouns are she, her." I'm Jesy LIttlejohn. My pronouns are they, them. Whenever I go to preach somewhere or whenever I'm speaking at an engagement, I say, my name is Jesy LIttlejohn. My pronouns are they, them. I have it in my email signature. I have it in my Zoom screen. When I'm in a meeting, I ask for people to say, can you give your name, where you're located, and what your pronouns are? Make sharing your pronouns an active part of everything you do. And if you don't know somebody's pronouns, don't assume them. Make a point of asking. There's nothing wrong with saying, hi, my name's Jesy LIttlejohn. My pronouns are they, them. What's your name and what's your pronouns? There's nothing wrong with asking that question. Get into the practice so that it doesn't feel uncomfortable and it doesn't feel awkward. And then you create a standard culture and a comfortable culture, affirming culture of we want to share who we are in our fullness with you. When you hear people that are misgendering somebody, what that means is that you are using the wrong pronoun or the wrong label of gender for a person. Be the person in the room that makes the correction. For me, in this room, Shani and Claudia are two of my biggest advocates when it comes to people misgendering me. If I'm in a meeting with one of them, I can always count on Claudia to say, oh, excuse me, Jesse's pronouns are they, them. And it doesn't matter if you have to stop and interrupt somebody. Reflecting somebody's humanity back to them and saying, hey, I see you and this needs to be corrected in this moment is important. But you have to do it gently. Don't be a jerk about it. Just gently say, hey, so and so's pronouns are she, her. So and so's pronouns are they, them. It's that simple. If you are somebody who misgenders someone, if you use the wrong pronouns, it happens. Apologize quickly, move on, and make the correction. The number one thing that you need to remember is that this is not about you. When you mess up, do not center yourself in your correction. The last thing I want when somebody misgenders me is for this big, long epitaph of like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. This is why I did it. Da, 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 da. Because then it's not about me. Then it's not about you seeing me. Then it's about me making you feel comfortable. It's making you feel better about your mistake. And that's not my responsibility. Your responsibility to me is to recognize that you made a mistake, correct it, and then move on. Simple as that. And that is your responsibility to other people as well. And remember that this, I, my slide got cut off. Sorry. Let me go to my notes to make sure I have what I'm supposed to say right. Uh, affirmation, it's not a trend. It's a form of discipleship, similar to allyship. It's not wokeness. It is a spiritual practice. Affirmation is not something that is trendy. We're not affirming churches because that's a trendy thing to do. We are affirming each other in our humanity. We are affirming each other in who we were created to be in Christ because that is what we are called to do. We are called to be disciples of Christ, and to be a disciple of Christ means that we love our neighbor. We affirm them, we see them. And so this is a part of our spiritual practice is to be affirming with one another, to say, I see your pronouns, I recognize them, and I'm going to commit to practicing them and affirming them on a regular basis. The next piece of allyship is to advocate. It is your responsibility as allies to challenge transphobic nature, transphobic jokes, to go out there and correct when people are misgendering others, even if you don't even know who that person is personally, but you know that they are a different gender. It is your responsibility, whether on Facebook, in an email, in a meeting, in Bible study, in church, wherever it may be, to make those corrections. It's your responsibility to speak out about exclusionary policies in your circles, whether it's in church, whether it's in your local government, on school boards, whatever it may be. That can look like sending letters or phone calls or showing up at school board meetings, different things like that. Part of your allyship is acting. It's to get up and actually voice these concerns because we can't do it all on our own. And a lot of times, our voice in the mix, those of us who are trans or non-binary, our voices are ignored. And so it's your job as our allies to step into those spaces where we don't have privilege and you do. And to use your voice to either amplify ours or speak where we are not allowed to speak. And so advocating is a huge part of our allyship. And finally, amplify. Share resources if you have them. If you know somebody is struggling with this, give them as much as you can to show them what it is that you've learned, what you're putting into practice. And make sure that a lot of those resources come from trans and non binary voices. The last thing that we want is to exploit people or exploit other experiences, or to lift up a cisgender sort of account of things when we have trans and non-binary voices that can speak for themselves. So make sure you're actually uplifting trans and non-binary people when you're sharing these resources. And again, go back to decentering yourself. Don't make your allyship about signaling your virtue. You don't want to make a big deal about, oh, I put a trans flag on my outside my house, or I wear my they them button, or I wear my pronoun pen, or I have this on my name tag. The less you have to tell us those things, the more we just see them in a regular part of your practice, the better. I don't want you to tell me all the things that you're doing. I want you to actively make them a part of your life so that they are visible on a regular account, so that it's not even a question that when I see you and meet you, that I know that you are somebody is safe with me. And so, on that note, as we talk about safety, as we talk about what it looks like to be in partnership with one another, what it looks like to mess up and to make that correction, I want to give it back to Shani because she has a really great example of wanting to lean into that space of allyship and amplification and affirmation, and the ways that even in her journey of co-conspiratorship and she can still make mistakes. So, Shani, I hand it back to you.
Great, great. So this is the time where I talk about when I was not a good ally or a good friend to Jesy. I pulled Jesy in to do this event with me. So we were running production for a 3-day event over the summer, and Jesy had come and was getting settled, and I wanted them to meet the team. And I introduced Jesy without introducing her pronouns. Now, I could sit here and tell y'all that it was an oversight, and it wasn't. I literally was, I, I did not know if the room could handle it. And I let my fear of all these things ran in my head. Like, would they welcome them? Would they welcome me? Would it be awkward? Is it gonna be weird? Is someone going to try to debate theology with me? All these things ran in my head as I'm introducing them. And when I almost immediately felt the conviction. And we got to our area where we were setting up our laptops and stuff. And in true Jesy fashion of always extending grace, says, "Oh, it's okay. I had my pronoun pen." And it wasn't good enough for me. Like I struggled like all night, all I struggled so much, y'all, that I wrote an article about it. I wrote an article about it because I realized in that moment that I diminished my friend. Jesy is my friend, and I diminished their humanity in that moment. And what would it have looked like for me to show up to model radical hospitality, to model the very thing that I coach about, the very thing that I teach about, the very thing I preach about, right? it is so easy for us to get caught up, especially as progressives, in spaces that can handle the room and can handle pronouns, right? We're all here because we have a shared interest, right? But 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 taking your allyship and putting it on the line means I can't center my comfort in the moment. I got to be an ally where I center the humanity of Jesy in that moment. And and what was interesting is the very next day there was a workshop at this very conference where they were talking about radical welcome, and the facilitator introduces herself and says, "My pronouns are she, they." And then further on in the workshop, she says why they is an acceptable pronoun for her because she sees God in herself. And she named why she introduces herself at the beginning using her pronouns because there's always going to be someone in the room that is a they them. There is someone in the room that is struggling right now and you're not even going to know because they're struggling in silence, right? Because they are afraid, they don't know if the space is safe. And by us modeling what that we are saying what our pronouns are is giving permission for that person to feel welcome, to to know that they are safe. Because we don't know people's stories. We don't know what they're holding. We don't know what they're carrying into a room. And safety, especially in these times, we want to make sure in this time, we want to make sure that strangers are safe, right? And that's the first way to implement to imply that I am a safe person for you. So
Yeah, so I think if, for the record, I didn't tell Shani to share that story, and again, I wasn't like offended by it at all. But I appreciate the way that Shani recognized I messed up in this moment, and I want to honor that. And I think our relationship is strong enough that we were able to have that honest conversation. Um, but Shawnee knows from her own experience, if it wasn't me, and if it were somebody else, how would she have handled that moment? And that's, I think, the kind of the takeaway. If it wasn't me, how would she have handled that moment? And so, moving forward, she is held in that conviction of wanting and being needing to do better. Um, and to step into that allied space. But I think at the end of the day, like, why do pronouns matter? I think it goes back to what Shawnee just lifted up, and to what More Light believes on the whole. And is in a lot of ways, More Light exists for the flourishing and liberation of all creation. We are in the business, as we like to say, of saving lives, of making sure that people in this world know that they are beloved by God. And there are moments when people see us at conferences or at churches or at different events, and we are the first touch point they have to recognize that who they are is okay. That their inclination of queerness, that their sense of gender, whatever it may be, that they're struggling with on the inside, that we are a touch point for them to say, you are okay. Not only are you okay, but you are amazing, and you are an unrepeatable, beautiful miracle that is beloved and created in the image of God. And so recognizing and seeing somebody's pronouns and using them appropriately, modeling that for them, if it may be that one touch point that somebody has that they never had before. And you may be that one person that they recognize that they can talk to and be safe with. And you, just by saying your pronouns out loud, could possibly be a lifeline to someone. Um, and so it really, it really does matter, using your pronouns. And so that is our lecture portion of the evening. Claudia, if you want to go ahead and turn off the recording, that would be great.